bit of rosato di nebbiolo, like Cameron said, it's not as hot as it was last Friday. So for those of you loyal guests who keep coming back, you know, we had some technical difficulties. Today's going to be a lot better with the weather being 75 the last few days, but I'm really happy that we have that sunlight.
It's perfect.
Glad to join you guys on this Friday, right?
Going to taste a little bit of rosato di nebbiolo. We just released it about a week and a half ago to the general public. So if you want to purchase some of that, you can go on our website. We're also running some shipping specials. If you ship 6 bottles or more, you get complimentary shipping. So pretty solid deal. Summer is just around the corner. This one is going to go down pretty easy.
This one is awesome.
Yeah.
Somebody says they're drinking an 08 Right Bank along with us.
An 08 Right Bank?
08 Right Bank.
Very nice.
Awesome. Perfect.
Lovely.
Beautiful wine.
One thing real quick.
Very small case production. So they're going to monitor the Facebook.
Questions?
Awesome. Perfect. So,
What about the color?
So the color is a little bit different from most rosés. It's not as straight pink, but a little bit more salmony, more peachy, and just the grape that we're using. So Nebbiolo, not a lot of vineyards grow it in the Napa Valley. So we decided to stand out by making a rosato di Nebbiolo. Very Italian, crispy, refreshing, as you said. Pretty nice fine acidity.
It is.
Really good strawberry aroma, and again perfect for the weather.
Yeah, it's delicious. What we leave things on 4 hours or something?
2 to 4 hours, yeah, 2 to 4 hours just
color.
to get that little the hue, the color.
Because the
And,
Nebbiolo is red grape.
Right, correct, yeah. So.
Oh, somebody wants to know how you all celebrated Mother's Day.
I was very fortunate. My one son, Jason, he said, what do you want to have for dinner? Anything. And he fixed a delicious dinner, and we had Rampon wine with that, starting with the Rosado. I love the Reserve Sauv Blanc, and we finished up with the Left Bank, because I love that blend. And then I think we also had some bubbles. I'm pretty sure.
What about you, Ken?
For me, this was my girlfriend's first official Mother's Day. So we have a 11-month-old, almost a year-old now. So I cooked her some breakfast and just kind of cooked her favorite lunch throughout the day and cooked the dinner up for her as well and her mom. So just hung out at home like everybody's doing these days.
Yeah, and for me, I did absolutely no cooking at all whatsoever. Took the easy route, ordered some food from Sam's Social Club.
Oh, that's
Killer
nice,
package. You know, we started with 2 bottles of Chandon pretty early in the morning.
Right on.
And then again, we decided to order from Rutherford Grill for dinner.
That's
And
good.
opened up some really nice, Rampon wines. Opened up 2000 Latest Scorch Transport sparkling wine.
Yeah.
And it was
Oh.
delicious.
That's delicious.
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice.
Oscar says he's got a private gravel tasting booked with Victoria for tomorrow.
Awesome.
Oh, you'll have a great time, Oscar.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started today. So we are doing a sweet and savory class today. So we're going to be pairing some meals with our 2016 Left Bank, and then as well as one of our sweeter wines, a late harvest that we're going to be doing as well. So we'll get into kind of explaining about those wines and how they pair up. Again, for those who haven't joined, I'm Chef Cameron. I've been with Round Pond coming up on a year and a half now almost. For Juan and Peggy, how about yourself?
So I've been with Rampon for almost 5 years actually. So I came here from Dean DeLuca and went to college at St. Mary's in the East Bay, Moraga. Came back here about 5 years ago. It's been flying by so fast.
Really?
But
I came here from 8th grade teaching. I taught hormones sometimes, it seems like, but I loved it. And I had done that for many, many years. And I was very fortunate that Round Pond, I started over at the olive mill. And today I'll be talking about a couple of our olive oils, but it's near and dear to my heart. I've been here about 2 years.
And wonderful to have Peggy and Juan here with us, joining us today. So we are going to get into the cooking part. So we're going to start with some lamb chops that we have prepared. So we're going to be doing a coffee or espresso encrusted lamb chop, as well as a apple and blue cheese tart that we're going to pair with the Left Harvest. So we'll go ahead and get started. Go ahead and get our grill fired back up here. Alright, so we have some lamb chops that we've already prepared inside the espresso crust, but we'll go through kind of how we prepare everything on there. Cutting board here. So we have one lamb chop that we've just, we took the rack of lamb, individually cut those down, just kind of trimmed off that fat there at the top. So the first thing we're going to do Just coat that with a little bit of Dijon here. You just want to make sure you get both sides coated pretty good. It's going to help for all the seasoning to stick. And the rub that we made, which all of the recipes we've posted on our social media as well as online as well. We just launched our new website a few days ago, so if you haven't had a chance to check that out, please do. So our dry rub that's on there, we did a combination of coffee or espresso ground up. If it's a little bit firmer, it sticks a little bit better than the fine ground espresso. So brown sugar just to add to a little bit of that sweetness. Salt and pepper, of course, some chili and paprika, and a little bit of garlic inside there. So you just want to take that seasoning blend we have there, and we are just going to coat both sides of that lamb chop. And this is what we're going to be pairing today with our left bank, which we'll talk about kind of how those go hand in hand in a little bit.
Does the rosemary oil go with the rub or afterwards?
So we're going to do the rosemary oil after yeah, for me myself, I like rosemary on lamb. It's kind of a fresh herb or flavor on there. Sometimes it can be a little bit strong, but if you like that flavor, you can always chop up some fresh rosemary and toss that inside there as well. So, but for us, we're just going to use our rosemary as just finishing oil at the end, some flavor at the end. So we're going to add that to our prepared. So we have our pan here that should be almost just there now. Getting hot, so we just have some cooking oil here. Start with a little bit of that. Get that nice and coated. Gonna be smart and grab my towel here. Just, again, you want to get the pan hot first, then you add your oil, because don't want that to smoke too much. And then as you can see, we got a little smoke coming from it, so we just start dropping our lamb in there. And you want to press it down on there so we make sure that that meat side is cooking pretty evenly.
Are you using canola oil?
So this is actually a rice bran oil. I like the rice bran oil. It's a pretty good cooking oil. Pretty good high heat on there, and it doesn't really take over the flavor as much if you use like a olive oil or certain other oils. You want to make sure you have space in there. Inside your pan, we're just using a cast iron. It's just my preference. Our lamb, we pulled out the refrigerator probably about 30 minutes or so before. You just want to bring those a little bit up to temperature, just so that way the meat on the inside, they cook pretty evenly in there. I'm going to swap out my gloves real quick.
Where did the lamb come from?
So that lamb I picked up in Sonoma where I live. So they got that from a local farmery or dairy out there. From Sonoma Meats, I believe, is where they come from. So yeah, they have some pretty good quality lamb out there.
I do see 6 pieces here, Cam, so it's 2 for each or 3 for each.
Yeah, we get we'll get
to
the snack on that later. Yeah. So for me, I've tried the espresso rub on beef before, which again with red wine you can swap that out. If you have the beef, the espresso rub will pretty much work the same on there. This time we just did lamb. It's just something I've been kind of playing around with and practicing for the last couple of weeks. And with that espresso rub, as well as the brown sugar on there, once you get that caramelization, which you're only cooking these probably 2 to 3 minutes or so per side, it gives it that nice little sweet crust. You get that garlic and pepper on there as well too. But it kind of takes away that gamey flavor that you kind of get sometimes from cooking lamb. Here we're getting a nice little sizzle. You can, if you guys are here to smell this, you would get the garlic. You can kind of get that espresso and coffee smell that's kind of coming from that. And maybe as this is cooking, if you guys want to kind of talk about the wine that we're pairing this with today.
Yeah, totally. So we're going to pair the lamb today with our proprietary Left Bank blend. I think I talked about this last week, maybe 2 weeks ago when I was doing it with Chef in the garden back there. So this one is going to be a part of our second tier of Round Pond wine. So this one you can only purchase it here at the winery on our website or by being a club member. So this one is going to be done in reference to the West Bank and Bordeaux, France. So it is going to be a 51% Cabernet Sauvignon and 49% Merlot. red blend. So it is going to have a really nice espresso, vanilla bean, dark chocolate, blueberry, strawberry aroma, really aromatic, really dangerous as well. It goes down pretty easy. So this one is going to have a really nice medium body, really velvety, really silky, really long lingering finish. And it is going to pair really, really great with the lamb fillet that Chef has.
That
for
is
us.
my favorite and Janie's as well. Our
This one?
favorite, this one.
Oh, really?
Because it's delightful with food, but I have more than a few times enjoyed it without food. It's just lovely.
Can I pour you a glass?
Oh, I'd love one. Let's
Beautiful.
see the glass.
Get a little glass for Chef Cameron as well.
Again, we're just going to give these a little flip here. So
Seriously.
as Juan kind of mentioned with that flavors that you get coming from the left bank, you kind of get those kind of reminiscent with it. You get the sweet coming from the brown sugar there. You get the coffee or that espresso flavor that you get kind of at the end after drinking that wine too. So we're just going to turn those over, get that nice crust on the other side. If you are like me and you love a little bit of butter, you can add that in just for a little bit of flavor as that side is caramelizing there. Gonna give those a little baste. It's not needed, but who doesn't love butter?
It's needed.
It's always needed. It's always needed.
Yeah.
Just gonna baste these up again because they're just the thin lamb chops. We're cooking on that high heat. You don't need to have them in that grill for that long. Just 2 to 3 minutes per side for that medium kind of rare. I'm gonna tilt that to the side. And then again, we're gonna let these rest for a while. As these start to rest, they're gonna, of course, continue to cook. So that's gonna bring that temperature up a little bit. Just gonna let that keep searing.
Maybe if some of the guests happen to drink some of our wines for Mother's Day, they can share with us what they paired the wine with and tell us about their Mother's Day plans or how that went.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And right now, if we're not getting any comments quite yet, I'll just talk for a second about the oil that we'll be doing.
Yes, we're gonna pair this with our rosemary.
Oh, and here's our rosemary. One of the wonderful things about our olive oil is all the trees are grown here. We have 12 acres of olive trees, 8 varietals. This rosemary is herbaceous. It's real clean and fresh, and if you're just tasting it like a regular olive oil tasting without fruit, I get a little bit of woodsy kind of taste with it, and maybe a little bit of spruce. But it can be used individually. We'll be doing it as a finishing oil, but of course it can be used as basting, marinating, and mixing it. It's just delicious.
What's your favorite olive oil, Peggy?
Meyer
Or
lemon.
top 3 maybe? The Meyer lemon?
My Meyer lemon, one of our estate oils, is probably my favorite.
Yeah.
And then I love the Spanish as
Spanish,
well.
I love the Spanish.
It's
yeah.
so clean. It's made of 3 different varietals of Spanish olives. And all of our oils done right here with our mill that's right across the street. And this particular one is done in a traditional hammer mill across the street, and we use a dual centrifuge system. It's wonderful.
We've got someone who chimed in and said they're enjoying the 2013 Sauvignon Blanc, and someone else is enjoying the 2018 Sauvignon Blanc.
Nice.
Rutherford.
Yes.
Awesome. We hope that they enjoy it. As I mentioned
It's
2 weeks ago
lovely.
when I did the tasting, every year is a little bit different. So it would be kind of fun for them to compare notes with one another
Yeah.
and see what they think about the different vintages. But yeah, 16 for me personally has been one of my favorite vintages. 2012 was freaking dynamite too.
Yeah.
But this one, healthy yield, really
Right.
approachable right out the gate, aging potential, and especially for the left bank,
Yeah.
this one is just terrific.
Any advice on the sunflower seeds sent with the latest club shipment? I'm thinking Full Sun, but I live in Texas.
Yes. Full sun.
Thank you. No sir flowers. Yeah.
Well, I do love it. I love that aspect of it. Full sun, and they should be just gorgeous.
All right, so we've had our lamb. We pulled everything off the heat there. We just had that 2 to 3 minutes per side, so it's just been resting here on our plate. Again, for those, just kind of plate those up, which is side by side. And as we mentioned, we're going to be pairing this today with our rosemary. olive oil that we have here. Just take that to finish, just to give it that extra flavor. Blend in, and those are your coffee crusted or espresso crusted lamb chops there. So you're definitely gonna tear into those once you're done with this video. I can't wait. They smell good.
Have you done this for the lunches or brunches before?
No, so I've never done it actually with lamb except for this week. I kind of did a tester at home. A lot of times I practice on everything at home for the girlfriend, and she's my critic to say if it's good or not, and what things we can kind of switch up and do. So we played around at home, and it turned out pretty good at home.
So this is a possibility for future.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah,
We can definitely pair this with it. So.
I love it with the oils. Again, here at the estate, it's like as you said with Left Bank. You can order online or come on in when things change a little bit. Our new normal coming up.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna make it happen.
What else do you have going on for us today?
Alrighty, so our next thing, we're going to get into the more sweet and savory side of things. So we're going to go into our apple tart that we're going to bake today. Get these actually changed out. We're going to. So the apple tarts, as a precursor, I am not a baker. I am not a pastry chef. It's something for myself that I have been practicing on. Something for just on the side. Can never go wrong to learn,
and we always love it when he practices here,
it's fun.
because if we're here, we get it's always delicious.
They have seen the good times that it's turned out and the bad times it's turned out.
And we eat both.
most of the time it's pretty solid.
Pretty
stuff,
amazing.
So pretty happy with you testing us out.
Yeah. So today we're doing something that's pretty easy if you don't have any baking experience like myself to do. So we have our puff pastry. It's just a store-bought puff pastry. It's been thawed out. I just kind of cut it into a little square there so you can see. We just have a little bit of flour that we're going to put down. And again, these come in larger sheets. You can roll them out to the desired kind of thickness depending on what you're going to make there. But to keep it simple, if you want to make them kind of uniform as well, so we're just going to use our cookie cutters here just to make our little circle. And you want to try to not twist as much as possible, just to not trap those sides. And then we use a smaller one just to make an indent, and essentially what we're doing is creating our crust. So you don't want to push all the way through on the second one, you just want to kind of make that second ring on the inside. You try to keep it as uniform and close as you can there. And then the next step, we're going to take a fork and just poke holes inside the middle all the way around. And what this does is, as you're baking it, if you don't poke the holes inside it, which I've forgotten to do a few times, basically what that does is the whole thing will bake up and puff up, and then it kind of destroys the puff pastry. If you poke the holes, it keeps it from over-rising up. So that way, whichever fillings or things that you place on the inside, they stay there on the inside. So real simple. Poke our holes there. And then we have some egg wash, which is just some eggs blended in with a little bit of water that we just brush along the edges there. For this one, you don't necessarily have to go all the way on the center, just want the edges, and this gives it, as you're baking it, that golden brown kind of color. And then today we're doing ours with apples, so we grabbed a pink lady apple that is in harvest. I like these because they're a little bit sweeter of an apple, so if you want to do the sweet and savory, it has a sweeter side, then you can toss them with salt and everything to kind of kill that sweetness. Yep. So we're just going to cut off the edge of this, and you want to slice these as thin as you can, just to keep them on there. If they're too thick, they may not cook as evenly. So you try to keep them uniform.
Cam, how many times have you cut your finger?
Way too many.
I would have, me too.
Way too many. It's a lot of practice, a lot of cuts. Yeah, way too many times. So we have our. So with these, you can we toss them inside of our Meyer lemon oil, which we're just going to do here. So you just want a little bit to basically coat them. We have our brown sugar. So if you have a bowl, you can toss these inside there, and you can mix everything up all together. You can also, if you want more of a lemon kind of flavor, you can use a lemon juice as well, and you can soak that inside there. And then we just are going to line those up onto our puff pastry there.
As you're doing that, can
Yeah.
I talk just a second about the
You
Meyer
sure
lemon
can.
oil?
Yeah, go right ahead.
The Meyer lemon is one of our 2 co-milled. We have 4 estate oils. The Spanish extra virgin, the Italian extra virgin, the Meyer lemon co-milled, and the blood orange co-milled. And co-milled just means we use either the Frantoio, usually Frantoio olive, and or the Lechino, excuse me, one of the 2. And we will put it in the big stone mills, the big stone wheels. We originally had 4 tons of granite stone from Italy across there, and as you use it, they just bring up the base of it so that the stone is just a hair's breadth away the wheel from the base. And we throw in with those olives the rind of the Meyer lemon or the rind of the blood orange. And so with that milling process with the stones, it expresses the oil out of both the rind and the olive at the same time. And it's co-milled. It's not infused or anything. This smells wonderfully. You get the lemon. And when you put it on something, it is very subtle. It's just delicious. It's almost like an afterthought. For me, I get it back of my tongue. It's one of my absolute favorites.
We get a lot of lemons from the gardens
Yeah,
too,
we
right?
from
do.
our property.
Yep, everything.
Blood oranges,
Here, if we
everything.
can't see it, we don't do it. That's about it. Everything is here. Yeah.
So what else did you add on there, Cam?
Alrighty, so we have some blue cheese here. So we have some Point Reyes Bay Blue Cheese, so they're a local cheese company. Depending on your preference of blue cheese, or so you can stuff as much as you want in there. If you like a lot of blue cheese, I do. As an option, you can stuff some inside there. As soon as the tarts come out the oven, you can add a little bit more on top. That way, as it's hot, the blue cheese will kind of melt down into there as well. And then from there, we are pretty much done. So we're just gonna take that tart, and we'll have for him. We're gonna pop it into our
Little magic oven.
magic oven, and voila! Look at that.
Wow.
We have 2 tarts that have popped out. So we are going to top this with a little bit of our estate honey. So we have this on property to actually harvest this, our gardeners. Mix that up. Drizzle a little bit of honey. We did some testers of this today for the gardeners, and
It was.
they enjoyed it.
Got all good reviews, huh?
And I like a little bit of black pepper on there again, just a little bit. You have the sweet, the peppery, the savory side. And those are our baked apple tarts there. So we could probably talk about a little bit how that pairs with our
The late harvest.
yeah, our late harvest. What we're
I
gonna.
just wanted to mention really quickly, the honey is also coming from our property. We have 9 beehives right next to the Napa Valley River.
Yep.
And Chris Paramonte, who is also the head of our vineyard management company, he's actually he happens to be a beekeeper as well. So he'll harvest some of the honey. He'll share with the culinary team here for them to use on the chef's pairings, on the brunches, lunches, etc. A lot of people do come back and ask if they can purchase it.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we don't make enough to have it for purchase, but we'll share with the family members who live on the property, and of course with you if you happen to be physically with us that day. So
And try to do different things with it
Right.
as much as possible.
That's awesome. And then to go with the dessert that Cameron made, we are going to be tasting a little bit of our late harvest Sauvignon Blanc, much smaller bottle, the typical 375. For these ones, you're not gonna fill up your glass 6 ounces. It's a little bit higher on the alcohol, and it's also on the sweeter side. So it is a dessert wine. It is not going to be overwhelmingly sweet. So sometimes when you come across some dessert wines, they tend to have that medicine smell kind of, which I'm not a huge fan of. And then when you go to taste it, it's just overwhelmingly sweet, where you almost don't want to go back to it.
Right.
This one has a really nice balance between the body and the sweetness, and also the acidity. So that pretty much gives you a crispy, clean finish, a little bit of a lighter body. I used to be a pretty huge skeptic of dessert wines. I would drink red wines all day long. But then when you pair it with the right thing, it definitely makes a huge difference.
And does it go really well with that blue cheese? I think you
Yeah,
had told me
so-
that,
yeah.
that real strong
Yeah,
the fun thing,
cheese.
I'm with wine. I didn't really. I'm not a big fan of the sweet wines
Yeah.
myself. When I tried these, it kind of
Yeah.
was. It's sweet, but not that overbearing.
Yeah.
Kind of sweet, and then you still get kind of that complex of our Sauvignon Blanc.
Right,
that
right,
it
right,
makes.
yeah.
So kind of for a chef, at least, it makes it fun for us because it's not just that sweet aspect
Yeah.
that we get to play around with. We can do that sweet and savory and pair with all the kind of back end flavors on it as well too. So you can do something like blue cheese. Depending on what you're cooking, you could also do something a little spicy as well. Something with our chili oil that we make, because that spice will also kind of cut a little bit of that sweet on there.
Right, yeah.
So there's a bunch of options. So.
Yeah, it's very versatile.
Oscar wants to know how long they would stay in the oven, the magic oven.
So in our magic oven,
In the real world.
so you want to have your oven set to about 400. Typically, depending on your oven, sometimes you can drop it down to 375, and you want to bake those roughly about 15 minutes or so. What you're looking for is them to rise up, and then with that egg wash on them, you'll start to see them turn a golden brown after they fluff up there. So
And is there a recipe for the rub?
there is a recipe for the rub. It is on the website as well for the lamb chop. So.
Jay, I want to know if you do a single layer of apples on the tart.
Single layer, honestly, it's really up to you. I played around with the options. As long as they're sliced pretty thin, you can kind of overlap them, and you won't have to worry too much about the one side cooking more than the other, but you don't probably want to stack them too much on there.
She also has another question about the lamb. Can you use something other than espresso if you don't like coffee? Her sister
You
doesn't
sure
like
can.
coffee.
So you can honestly drop the espresso out of there. You can, again, swap in the herb if you want to do strictly the rosemary, if you like that flavor. You can go, I typically prefer garlic on my lamb, so you can go a heavier garlic side, fresh garlic. You can use our garlic oil as a finisher as well too. So
El Shap wants to know what's the best way to season a cast iron skillet.
the best way to season, if it's brand new, typically they come seasoned. If you have one that's probably a little bit older or rusted out, first thing you want to try to clean and get as much of that rust up out of there. And then each time that we use ours, we add a little bit of olive oil at the very end, and you just want to coat the entire thing in olive oil. It gives it kind of that nice shine back to it. If it's one that's kind of been rusted over a while, you possibly have to do the olive oil and then you bake it inside the oven for, I want to say it's a couple of hours at like 400 or so like that, just to heat it up, and then you let it cool in the oven. But there's instructions online.
Can you use a mandolin for the apples?
You can use a mandolin for the apples. So I just,
Brave.
it's easier to slice for myself.
And someone's smoking a pork butt tomorrow. How would this rub be on that?
Ooh, espresso. So I have not tried it on pork yet. Depending on what you're serving that with, that could be pretty good. I mean, you can kind of play on that sweet side still with the espresso, especially with the smoky side on the coffee. That probably is going to turn out pretty good. I'd be curious to see the results on that.
Tag us.
Yeah.
Cook it and tag us. Let us know.
Yeah.
We have to try that myself this weekend.
Post a photo online and tag us, and we'll maybe we'll go ahead and try it out too.
Right.
With the pork butt, what would be a wine that you would suggest?
The thing that's screaming to me right now is the Super Tuscan, perhaps.
Yum, yeah, that little bit of
Full
spice.
body, a little bit more punch to it. So I think with pork, which tends to be a little bit heavier as well, it'll balance each other out.
Oh, that'd be
Yeah.
delicious.
So we used to use on that Pronto for a while. We
Oh,
were in the
right,
point
right,
where we
right.
did the
Yeah.
Super Tuscan.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, keep the questions coming, guys.
yeah,
Beth on YouTube has a question. She wants to know if you can cook the meat on the barbecue or grill.
yeah, so you can grill it. I mean, it's really a preference. I myself prefer the grill. You can do it in a pan. You can do them in the oven under a broiler. It's really just a preference on how you prefer to cook it and what temperature that you like it, that sort of thing.
Do you have fresh corn on the estate? And if so, can you make cornbread for one night for us?
So we do actually grow corn here in the garden. We actually were making cornbread for our estate tastings that we were doing for a while right before we swapped to our chef's pairing. So I'm sure that's something we can incorporate back in our Pronto or something for the summer once we're back open.
And CJ, who asked about the pork, gave a thumbs up. So I'm thinking that means he's gonna cook it and tag us.
Oh,
I'll be
good.
looking forward. You gave me
That's
some
great.
ideas for the weekend. So
Great.
any other questions you got on there?
Yeah, ask us questions about the wines, pairings. We hope everybody is still out there keeping safe and healthy. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel, so hopefully we can
Getting there.
Right.
back to normal-ish kind of. But it's always nice to see you guys, see some
Yes,
familiar faces.
it's fun.
Is Miss
And,
Peggy here with us?
Yeah,
No,
it's
Peggy's
fun.
cool.
Joining us.
It's wonderful. It's great. I have one small, what would you call it?
Comments or
Tidbit.
something, yeah.
Well, okay. Because I was in English. Difference between the olives. Olives are called a grove, and like apples are an orchard. So my question is, what's the difference between a grove and an orchard? Buzz. Time is up. But anyway, with a grove, it is evergreen. They don't drop their leaves, and an orchard drops its leaves.
I
That's
never
the
did.
difference.
I have no idea.
I know that.
That's
Just
awesome,
throwing
man.
that
Wish
in.
you were my high school teacher, Peggy.
Oh, we
We
would
would have
have
got
fun.
along fun.
Oh, you would have been in trouble all the time,
Probably.
I'm sure.
Would have talked too much in class.
Someone's asking what we would pair with the right bank.
So the right bank we unfortunately don't get to play around with too much. I mentioned last time we were on here with Cameron and the Gardens. We don't make a lot of them. So that one particular vintage, 2016, we only made about 40 cases. The employees, most of the time, we get first dips on most of these wines. That one was one of them that if we took the core into it,
Yeah.
we would have to look around to see that nobody was there. So they didn't really get too much playtime with that. But I don't know. It reminds me a lot in the complexity and the texture to the Reserve Cabernet Sauvignon. So maybe
Probably go more beef.
a little bit of
yeah.
protein, some lamb, so it doesn't overpower.
Yeah.
How beautiful, how complex, how deft it is. But if you happen to have some at home, props to you. I'm jealous. I think I only have one bottle, and I have to talk to
Yeah.
a couple of people to get that bottle in there. So I'm gonna save it for a while. If you have any suggestions, or you happen to crack it open and pair it with something,
Let us
you know,
know.
let us know.
How long does the olive oil generally last?
Olive oil, whether it's opened or not, we like to say it's height 18 to 24 months. And it doesn't matter open or not. So when you get it, enjoy it. Open it up. There are three big enemies of fresh olive oil: sunlight, heat, and air. And so don't keep it right by your stove. Maybe pour a little bit that you'll be using in a beaker or something, and then just put it somewhere.
A cooler
It doesn't
place in
have
your
to,
cabinet.
in the cabinet or something, and just pull it out to use it. Don't keep it right above the stove or right next to it.
Yeah.
Beth wants to know, what are you cooking next week?
What are we cooking next week? So we are partnering, I believe, with Bodega Oyster Company. So we're going to be doing, Chef Jamie will be back next week, so we'll be doing some oysters, a few different ways, some cooked, some fresh, pairing with our 2019 risotto.
I think it's the
So,
Rosato di
yeah.
Nebbiolo and also the 2017 Cabernet Sauvignon that was just released yesterday.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
Should be a pretty fun
Oh,
class. I think
yeah,
after
that'll be
that, we're going to be
delicious.
doing an appetizer class the following week, so I'll be back for that one.
And the winemaker is also doing some sort of vineyard, updating people on the vineyards and everything else. And then there's going to be a live concert, I believe, the week after. So we have some new content
Yeah.
coming your way. You know, we want to switch it up a little bit. I know a lot of people are, again, really loyal to
Yeah,
keep
you
coming
are,
back.
yes.
So we appreciate you for joining us and for the feedback as well. So
Yeah,
keep,
Oh.
keep on
Stay tuned,
doing
yeah.
it.
Please.
Anything else you all have? Any comments to share? The virtual tastings, we're doing virtual tastings.
Virtual tastings, and our mill master is Emilio Alvarez, and he is amazing. Each year he is the one that blends it. It's different each year because the growing season is each year. And we do bottle on demand, twice a year at least.
Yeah. So
All right. If there's no more questions, we're going to go ahead and dive into this and enjoy these
I can't
wines.
wait.
I can't either.
We hope everybody enjoys the rest of the Friday, and we hope you tune in next week live with us. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank
Yes.
you.